right, so I think we're gonna get started, and I'm sure people will be joining in as we go. Welcome everyone to our webinar series presented by the SCULPTD Life by Ecstatics program. I'm Dr. Maria Shukir. I'm the medical director of the SCULPTD program, and I'm really excited to co-host this webinar with our amazing psychologist, Dr. Alana Ireland. Alana is an assistant professor and registered psychologist, and her clinical work and research focuses on weight-related issues such as obesity, eating disorders, body image, and weight bias. Her research has emphasized the importance of interdisciplinarity and translating findings from research into practice. Today, she will talk about a few sensitive but very important things that may just be what is getting in the way to success in weight management for many people. There's a lot of social media influence in this topic, so our goal is to provide reliable information directly from the expert to you. We have planned a series of webinars for this month of March. If you missed our previous webinars, you can still watch by going to our website, sculpted.ca, and Kevin, our moderator, will write that on the chat. And you can always watch the recordings there for Alana's webinar as well. But don't forget to register for our next webinar that will happen Wednesday at 6:30 Mountain Time, next Wednesday, with Dr. James Kin. He's one of our physicians, and he will talk about how sleep and medications may influence your weight and what can you do to minimize the impact. So make sure not to miss that. So before we dive into today's topic, I just wanted to briefly explain what our program is about. So SCULPTD Life is a medical weight management program based in Calgary, Alberta, and we are a collaboration of doctors, nurses, dietitians, psychologists, pharmacists, and exercise physiologists that dedicate their careers to promote an evidence-based and stigma-free approach to weight management. At the end of Alana's talk, we'll play a short video about the program, so stick around, and then you can see for yourself why we are indeed different from anything you've ever tried before. Also, during this webinar, we would absolutely love some interaction from the attendees. Please feel free to raise your hand and ask questions, or use our chat to ask questions and make comments. We'll be watching that, and we'll certainly answer your question. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Dr. Alana Ireland. Alana, thank you so much for being here today. We are very fortunate to have such an amazing expert as a consultant for our program. Could you start by telling us what is unique about the psychology support provided by your team?
Yeah, thanks, Maria. We take an individualized approach that's informed by best practice guidelines, up-to-date literature, and that's non-stigmatizing. We aren't really taught about the complexities of weight and psychology training programs, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with some leading researchers and practitioners in the field. Also, I often hear from clients and people that I work with stories about previous interactions with the medical system or with psychologists where they felt misunderstood or maybe even judged and not believed. And we do live in a society that promotes a lot of weight bias or stigma. And unfortunately, the professionals that we might look to for help aren't immune to that either.
Okay, yeah, and so can you tell us a bit more about what weight bias is?
Yeah, so weight bias is the negative attitudes and beliefs that we have about people because of their weight. Most often, this is directed toward people who live in larger bodies. Weight bias or stigma can be overt, or it can also be really subtle and hard to identify. But regardless, the impact of it is pretty profound. So for example, someone might be explicitly teased about their body weight or shape, and their maybe well-intended parents might put them on their first diet early in childhood, And we see this in the medical profession all the time, where someone goes to their physician with a health concern and they feel it's dismissed and they're told to just lose weight.
Okay, yes, I do have personal experience as a doctor to describe later, but we do that at the end. And why is it important for us to talk about weight bias?
Yeah, when people encounter weight bias, it can result in a whole host of negative consequences. Things like low self-esteem, poor body image, depression, anxiety, avoidance of physical activity, and avoidance of the healthcare system. And in addition, weight bias can also be internalized. So it's no longer others exhibiting the weight bias, but instead people are then adopting the bias and judging themselves based on the stigmatizing beliefs. And internalized bias can actually end up leading to experiences of things like shame and guilt.
Yes, and how would those things be a barrier for weight management? How could, let's say, shame get in the way of success?
Yeah. So shame is a mechanism through which weight bias impacts our psychological functioning. And there's lots of studies actually linking it to symptoms of depression and anxiety. Anecdotally, you could kind of see how someone who's the victim of weight bias, for example, might come to feel shame about their body and themselves, and how unhelpful thinking related to that shame. So things like my weight is my fault, or I'm disgusting, or everyone's going to be judging what I eat or what I feed my children, or I have no self-control, and a whole host of other sorts of unhelpful thoughts might actually contribute to symptoms of depression or anxiety. Shame can also play a role in disordered eating, and disordered eating isn't just about eating disorders. And this is related to both body shame specifically and more general internalized shame about ourselves. So saying things like, because of my body shape or size, I am doing something bad if I have kind of this or that food that I might have thought of as bad. And then if I have that food, I myself am bad then. And often I hear from clients beliefs that they can't eat certain foods, but that someone thinner can. Or reports of attending a social or work function and not allowing themselves to eat despite being hungry, because of similar consequences of self-comparison and weight bias. So an example is I heard a story of a woman going to the food court with her daughter, and despite being hungry, she wouldn't eat because she was sure others would judge her for everything that she put in her mouth, regardless of what it was, simply because of her size. And in addition to that, she also struggled with what food to even purchase for her daughter for fear that people would judge that too. And probably much more seriously, I've also worked with clients who've refused to eat entirely or severely restricted food intake, sometimes even to the extent of a clinical eating disorder, due in part to weight bias and shame associated with their size. And also consistent with this research and anecdotes from clinical practice, I apologize if you can hear that barking, is that shame can contribute to actually binging or feelings of a loss of control when we're eating as well. And kind of further to that, shame can also pose a psychological barrier to engaging in behavioral change. So for example, both research and my experience in clinical practice has suggested that people who are subject to weight bias might actually avoid engaging in physical activity in the first place as well, especially when it happens in a social setting, due to concern that they'll be observed or judged. So not going to the gym because they don't want to be seen at the gym, or judged in whatever it is that is the thing that you're supposed to wear to the gym, or society tells us we wear to the gym, or how they look when they're exercising. And some people will actually wait for greater changes to their physical appearance or their body, or more weight loss in hopes of feeling more comfortable engaging in activities that initially feel risky due to shame. And kind of finally, I'm sure you could kind of guess this by now, based on what I've already mentioned, is shame can actually lead to a breakdown in social connections. So, and this is because those people who are experiencing shame might actually avoid social situations altogether. Um, and kind of finally, people who experience weight bias or stigma when interacting with, for example, the healthcare system, they're actually less likely to engage with the healthcare system, and they might start to avoid things like doctor's visits or seeking help when they actually need it in fear of judgment.
Yeah, I actually, since you touched on that, I will tell my story now. I think it's appropriate. So I'm an anesthesiologist, and I do work in the operating room. And a few weeks ago, we had a patient that had a 50-pound tumor in her belly. It was an ovarian mass, and it was the size of a watermelon. And when we talked to her, she said that she has been going to her family doctor for many months, and with concerns that, she was gaining weight and that her belly was growing, and all he did was tell her to diet and exercise. He never even bothered doing an ultrasound or, actually hearing her concerns. So by the time that they decided to do something, the tumor was like a 50-pound tumor, size of a watermelon, like the biggest one I've ever seen. So that's really the biggest example of weight bias and stigma that I've ever seen, right?
Yeah, and the examples and probably folks who have joined us today have experiences of their own that they could share too. There's so many in it, and it's quite sad.
Yeah, I think for people that are watching, if you have a personal experience or if you know about other people's experience, and if you could share on the chat, that would be great. We can always discuss on that or answer questions. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. As I didn't actually plan to share this story, but I will. There's a reason that I do the work that I do. Growing up, my father actually was obese, and I watched him be the subject of weight bias my entire life. And finally, when I would have been in university, so I would have been in my early 20s. He was actually diagnosed with cancer. And he was diagnosed and passed away within a month of diagnosis, because all of his visits leading up to diagnosis with his medical professionals, it wasn't noticed, because again, it was you're fat, you're overweight, get used to it, you're unhealthy. Yeah.
Yeah, even like in our medical training, we learned that yes, cancer, like you're going to be concerned about cancer if someone is losing weight fast, if someone is very underweight, right? And so that's like, there's a very, very strong stigma, even in our medical training, not only doctors, but I think nurses and any other allied health professionals. And that's, I think, one of the biggest barriers for weight management for anyone, right? In terms of a public health perspective or individual perspective, I think that's huge. Yeah. So Alana, just changing gears a little bit. So we talked about shame, but what about emotions? Like, do you talk about emotions to patients, or what roles do emotions have in weight management and obesity?
Yeah, so shame, as you just mentioned, Maria, is just one emotion, that's and it just happens to be often the result of weight bias. But emotions can play a really large role actually in eating and exercise behaviors, and successfully introducing changes. I want to be really clear that I'm not reducing weight to eating and exercise. They're just often components of these sorts of programs. So things like stress and fatigue, depression, or anxiety, they all might influence our success. So for example, if we're feeling stressed, that might combine with the beliefs we have about food as maybe a reward or a comfort. And then we might be influenced to seek certain types of food that make us feel comforted or that are comforting to eat. And sometimes we might even eat when we're not hungry in response to our emotional states as well. Kind of similarly, If we're stressed or we're fatigued, we're less likely to want to be physically active. And that's simply because we don't have the emotional or the physical resources to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So actually, we have a question from the chat from Lily. She says that, yes, this is why I don't want to go to my family doctor. What can your program do differently? So yeah, do you want to maybe, Alana, if you could talk about what kind of psychological support our patients at SCULPTD get from your team? That would be great.
Sure. So that's actually a little bit of a difficult question. When I was thinking about that prior to coming today, I actually had a bit of a hard time imagining how I would answer it. And the reason for that is it actually looks different, or at least a little bit different for everybody. And that being said, an important part of all psychology support when we're talking about these sorts of programs is behavioral intervention. And behavioral intervention involves coming up with things like realistic goals and achievable plans to reach them, as well as ensuring that these goals and plans are sustainable. So things that we can continue doing for the rest of our lives. So for example, someone might decide that they want to engage in more physical activity. What that looks like to engage in more physical activity would depend then on that person's current level of activity, their lifestyle, time constraints, familiarity with physical activity, personal resources, and fitness. And so any goal or any specific goal then would have to take all of those things into account if it's going to be successful. So, if somebody went through and considered all of those aspects and ultimately came up with a goal, they might decide that they have the time and the resources and the physical ability to maybe go to the gym 3 days a week for 30 minutes each time. And it might be the case that this is actually a totally realistic goal. And they could go through the steps then of determining, what's going to facilitate me doing this, what might get in the way. So it might be things like saying, if I go straight to the gym from work and I don't go home first, I'm going to be more likely to follow through. Or if I lay out the clothing the night before, then it's ready to go. I'm not going to forget it in the morning. And all sorts of other sort of behavioral plans that I'm actually relatively certain that that most people here probably have heard or done in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this does sound like experiences that a lot of people might have already had. And just adding to your answer in terms of what Lily asked, what does our program do differently? Lily, I think in all aspects of the program, we handpicked stigma-free providers, from physicians to nurses to psychologists. We picked people that are actually really trained and educated in weight management. And I think our main mission really is to, eliminate the stigma and the weight bias and get that out of the way so that we can actually address the issue as a team. So I think that's something that we're very, set us apart, because I do know there are lots of programs out there and lots of even physicians trying to help their patients with weight management, but there's all this other side of things that they're not looking at.
Yeah.
And we are. So Alana, so this very, very I guess I hope, or I suppose that lots of people here might have found similarities of their own experiences with what you've talked to us about. Is there anything else that you can add to that the behavioral approach that you guys use?
Yeah, absolutely. And that approach sounds probably really familiar to a lot of folks because it's the most basic sort of intervention. And it's absolutely necessary. We recognize that it can't just be that. So there are so many other factors that contribute to or enhance or get in the way of behavioral goals. And it's not just about behavioral goals either. These could be things like our thoughts and beliefs that we have about ourselves, about our bodies, about food. For example, we might have a belief that physical activity has to be exercise, and it has to be at the gym, and it has to be painful and not enjoyable, or we're not doing it right. Or that maybe exercise should be a tool for weight loss rather than something that we're doing to improve our physical fitness or the functioning of our body. And these sorts of beliefs can get in the way of identifying physical activity that's actually enjoyable or that the person feels good doing. So if the person believes then that, let's say that physical activity is a tool to modify their body, which by the way, the fitness industry sells really hard, and they really rely on us believing this in order to make money, and then their body doesn't change as fast or as much as they want it to, or maybe not even at all. It can actually contribute to a lack of self-efficacy or underlying beliefs that they can't succeed in their goals, and if that person's been taught, or if people have been taught that weight is totally under our control, which we are, and is actually also not entirely true, then they'll come to believe that they've actually become a failure if they fail to change it. So an important part of psychology then is also considering the beliefs that we hold, that contribute to how we feel and think about our bodies, about food, and about physical activity, and where these beliefs and thoughts have come from. So we spend a lot of time exploring what the beliefs are, the influences on the beliefs, so things such as popular culture, families, peers, school, and even the medical system. Because really being successful oftentimes means identifying these myths and misconceptions and self-limiting and other unhelpful beliefs that we have, and deconstructing those actually first. And then following that, we then have to reconstruct something that's more helpful, or more helpful beliefs that then contribute to us feeling better about ourselves, having more positive self-esteem and self-efficacy. So an example of this would be, our culture would have us believe that body weight is as simple as calories in, calories out. And that as a consequence, weight then is completely under our control. But what we know, and is incredibly well supported by the research, is that it's really just not that simple. And there's many, many other factors that complicate that equation. So then it's important that we identify and deconstruct the errors that are just inherently a part of that equation. And then we're reconstructing understandings that are more factual and invite us to engage in greater self-compassion and body acceptance. And in addition, in psychology, we're working to help people identify not just sustainable lifestyle changes, and I know that's the work that a lot of the other professionals are doing, but we work to connect those with people's values and what's important to them in their lives. And if we're able to do that and connect change to what's really important to us, we're much more likely to follow through with it as well.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. What you're talking about, deconstructing beliefs that are pretty much ingrained in people's, by culture or by social media, or even by their family and parents, right? So that can be getting in the way of success, and that's really, I think that's a very unique approach that only the psychologists will be offering during the program, because I did notice that you also address, physical activity, nutrition, and behaviors associated with that, which might overlap with some of the work of the dietitians and exercise physiologists. But it does seem that this part of this construction of beliefs is very unique to psychology support, right? Is there anything else that you feel like makes psychology support unique in this situation?
Yeah, so through psychology, I think Maria, you're right? We are doing a lot of the things, or reinforcing a lot of the work that other professionals are doing in a program like this. But with psychology, we're able to explore some of those topics more deeply, if for no other reason that we have more time to actually help clients and to help them make greater connections then. And we're not just trained in behavioral intervention and goal setting, which, like we mentioned earlier, is kind of that basic first step. But therapeutic intervention allows us to help clients to gain important insights that might mean the difference between being successful or not. And we have the opportunity then to help people to kind of pull it all together, so to speak.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Alana, we have a question here from an iPhone. How many sessions of psychology does one get with the program? And what is the main focus of each session?
Yeah. So the number of sessions in the program is 6. So what that looks like or how those are spaced out is really dependent on the individual. Ideally, in psychology, we see folks usually coming every 2 to 3 weeks. So that would likely be kind of twice a month for about 3 months. In terms of what would happen in those sessions, I unfortunately don't really have a formula, because we work really hard to make sure that it's individualized, that we're addressing the things that are actually really important and relevant to each and every individual client. That said, there's some things that are relatively predictable. For example, that the first session, we're going to be gathering information. So getting to know you, getting to know your story, getting to know your experiences, and what's actually operating for particular clients or you in your life in terms of your goals and what you want to get out of our work together. So typically that would happen in the first session, for example, and the sessions following that would be based on exactly what it is that we kind of collaboratively decide in that first session. And it could be some of the things that we've talked about here today. So working on reinforcing and helping to increase the likelihood that you're going to be successful with behavioral goals that you might have established with some of the other professionals. And a lot of the time it's a bit of a deeper dive into those things that have really shaped how you feel about yourself, about your body, about the experiences that are bringing you to a program like this, and helping to figure out how those experiences have either contributed or reinforced or helped or hindered kind of where you're at and your efforts maybe in the past, and everybody has a complex story about all of these sorts of things. So because of that complexity, it will just, it'll look different for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the additional information is keep in mind that yes, the program includes 6 sessions, but you can always buy what we call the upgrade package on psychology and then do additional sessions, or even use health spending accounts or private insurance to do more sessions. So that's something that we always try and reinforce, that if you need more psychology, you get more psychology. And the same thing with the other consultants. If you need more nutrition, dietitian sessions, you can always we can always arrange for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing to consider as well is, yes, the program has 6 sessions, and but there is no timeline. Like, it's not like it's been 12 months, you're here, you're done, goodbye, no matter what's happening. The program everything goes at your own individual pace, and you'll stay in the program until you feel like you're ready to transition. And when you transition, you're not alone. We have a post-maintenance program, which is a less intensive program, but it still keeps you, we still keep giving you support, and that will be, people are welcome to stay as long as they need or they want. And people are also welcome to come back if they had like a setback and they need more support. I think that's also part of the question that Lily asked. Something that makes us different from other programs is that we are actually here for the patients, like lifelong, as long as they need.
Yeah, I think I would add to that too, Maria, from a psychology perspective. I hear all the time from people who've engaged with other psychologists and then they haven't had great experiences, and some of them have, and absolutely we have fabulous psychologists out there. But this is an area of practice where, unless you've chosen to study it, we're just not trained in it. But despite that, everybody thinks they're an expert on it, because we all live in a body and we're surrounded by these messages. So, you go on social media, or you turn on the TV, or it doesn't matter where you go, you're bombarded with messages about bodies, about weight, about food, and all these things. So everybody thinks that they kind of know. Everybody thinks they're an expert. And I think, Maria, just to kind of reinforce what you've already said, what really sets us apart is that the folks who are part of this program are really passionate about it, and it's what they want to be doing. It's what they've chosen to focus on.
Yeah, that's really important. And it's not only psychologists finding themselves experts. I think doctors and dietitians are a little bit more versed on that, but still, I think everybody has that idea that they know, but they don't, right? I actually there's one sculpted patient that we saw yesterday, and she actually said, so she had bariatric surgery, and now 2 years later, she was discharged from the post-bariatric program, and she came to us because she feels stuck. She said she wants to, continue her weight loss journey, or even like learning how to maintain weight. And she feels stuck, and she keeps going to her family doctor, asking for help. And he keeps telling her to diet and exercise. And so that's, So she feels very guilty. She feels like it's all on her, like it's because she's not dieting or exercising properly or whatever. And so we had to have a long talk here and tell her it's not her fault, and kind of act like a psychologist. Get her to, and she was really happy, and I guess felt really supported with what we explained, and she's very excited to be in the program. So any other questions from the attendees? We really appreciate your participation, and if you have any questions or comments, please let us know on the chat. Everybody's quiet today. I know this is not a very, it's a very sensitive topic, right? So it's hard to, I guess, even like talk about it in the chat and stuff. So I understand. We did get a lot of questions in the nutrition one about intermittent fasting, about, all kinds of diets. It's something very much more objective, right? But we do have another question here from another iPhone. What is the opinion with eating disorders in managing weight?
I'm gonna be careful to say that it's my opinion, not the opinion. But I do have one for sure. So there's what I would say, and I hope I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here. One of the things that I think is so difficult is because it is so complex, because people have these experiences like what you just shared, Maria, where they feel like their progress is stalled, or they're not getting anywhere. Oftentimes kind of the response to that is, well, just do more of reducing calories, do more of physical activity. And we keep kind of encouraging this, do more, where if the person was living in a small body, we would be really worried about what we're asking them to do. And we might even call it disordered. But just because somebody's living in a large body, people seem to think it's okay. And that's really a significant disservice. And things like individuals who are living in larger bodies then being completely overlooked for eating disorders, because somebody in a large body can't possibly have an eating disorder. And unfortunately, it happens where again, somebody isn't given the proper care and maybe even a diagnosis that's necessary to facilitate the proper care that they need and deserve.
Okay, yeah, we do have a few other questions here. One of them I think I can answer. Is any of the services covered or billable by Alberta Health Services? And that's from Elizabeth. So Elizabeth, the program is private, but that doesn't mean that you're private. It's might be covered by private insurance. We've had some patients that took our receipts to their health spending accounts or their corporate wellness programs, and they got it covered. But it's not really covered by Alberta Health Services per se. It's 100% private. Yeah. And like I said, additional sessions might be covered by private insurance as well for nutrition, etc. So we have another question here, Alana. If I want to lose weight, how can I not affect my kids with my changes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think when it comes to children, I mean, they notice everything. They're little. I mean, people say they're sponges for a reason. They notice, and then they take stock of everything that's going on. So ultimately, it's engaging in positive behaviors around them, so that what they're observing from you there's what they're seeing you do and what they're hearing you say are messages that we would share, or we would hope we would share with all children. Regardless of our weight or shape or desire to lose weight. So I know different professionals within the program will have, specific advice. So for example, a lot of times, we have conversations. So one of the big things that, or one of the things that we end up talking about in psychology is this good foods, bad foods thing. And I'm sure you would talk about it with the dietitians as well. So we really try to move away from that, for example. So not saying that, I don't know, vegetables and fruits are good foods and pizza and ice cream is bad foods, but all foods are just foods. And so being really aware of the messages that we're sharing and talking about. So it's not like, oh, I had a really great day today, I only had this, or those sorts of messages. So being aware of what we're sharing with our children, and what's the word I'm looking for? Editing, there's a better word for it than that, but kind of editing what might even be our internal dialogue and not passing that on. And hopefully actually you're going to be shifting your own beliefs about those things too, where it isn't, good food, bad food, that you're actually seeing all food as food. And then you're not in a position where you're actually passing that along, just kind of as an example.
That's very, very interesting. So I have a question from Bercies, and it's actually more, I think, directed to me. But hello, Dr. Maria and Dr. Alana. I'm wondering how exercise physiologists contribute to the program. So Bercies, the exercise physiologists basically, they will see you on the first assessment, the initial assessment, and they'll get an idea of your, your fitness history and your fitness level, or your physical activity history, your fitness level, and they will create kind of a plan for you with, what you can do based on your limitations and based on your fitness level, things that you can do to be more active. So it's not like you're going to be, put in a boot camp or personal training session. No, it's more like physical activity counseling, and also to measure your levels and your limitations. And that's in the first assessment. Then 6 months later, you go back to them to do another fitness assessment to kind of compare with baseline and see your improvements and see where you're at, if you need more support in finding activities that you can perform. They're safe for you based on your health conditions. And then same thing on month 12, you see them again to just do a fitness level and compare with where you started, where you're at. As part of an upgrade package, they do offer personal training. And we're looking into also offering small group sessions to our patients, but those things are not included in the program fees. So Alana, we do have another question here. Do you talk about or are trained in depression, childhood trauma, and how it relates to weight?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. In terms of kind of depression and trauma, most registered psychologists should be trained in depression and trauma and intervention. In terms of how it relates to weight, I don't know that there's actually any specific training out there that says, how does depression specifically influence weight, or how does trauma specifically influence weight, and how do we intervene if that's the situation that we're worried about. But having kind of training in weight and having training in depression and in trauma, it's really the job of the psychologist then to be able to put the two together to make sense of it in terms of case conceptualization and treatment planning and things like that. So specific training combining the two doesn't really exist, but certainly myself and the other psychologists working with me are trained in those areas. Yeah.
And I guess we do know that depression, anxiety, or any unstable psychiatric or psychological issues can hinder the success of weight management. So I think that's, like Alana said, is the job of the psychologist to put it all together and address everything that's getting in the way, right, of success in weight management. Yeah, and it does relate to weight in terms of, I think it kind of becomes a vicious cycle, right? One thing feeds the other, kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That there's criteria. If we were to look at our DSM or our manual that outlines all the criteria for all of our different mental conditions or mental disorders, some of the criteria for example, depression would be things that would directly conflict with efforts in a program like this, for example, right? So maybe helplessness or hopelessness, or changes in sleep or things like that, or lack of motivation. So certainly, Maria, exactly what Maria you're saying is that the two are kind of just inherently related. You can't necessarily even separate them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, I think we are great for timing, and we have no more questions, but thank you everyone for attending. I hope that this was helpful, and we are very excited and look forward to see you at our program. Thank you, Alana, for the excellent talk today. And now we are going to play our video just so you guys get to know more about our program and what we offer and who we are. And if you do have any other questions, you can always reach out to us by email or phone. Just visit our website, sculpted.ca, and you'll find how to reach out to us.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Sculpted Life program by Aesthetics Face and Body Sculpt, a unique weight and lifestyle change program where we listen, collaborate, and support you with sustainable strategies that will work for life. Are you struggling with weight management? At Sculpted, we understand the difficulties that you may be facing, and we're here to offer a place where you can feel safe and receive the support you need.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Maria Shakir, the Medical Director of SCULPTD Life. We believe living with excess weight is no one's fault, It is a complex problem that requires appropriate treatments and an individualized management plan. We believe achieving and maintaining healthy weight should not be the main focus, but a consequence of a series of small and sustainable changes. We understand the battles you faced and the frustration of endless diets and exercise routines. SCULPTD is not an eat less, move more program. It is not a fad diet, and it's definitely not a miracle solution. We have created a program different from anything you've ever tried.
Here's what makes SCULPTD stand out. Stigma-free and holistic support from a team of highly trained professionals, including doctors, nurses, psychologists, dietitians, and more. We focus on evidence-based interventions. We build a supportive network to our patients. We have the latest available technologies to track your progress. We offer robust and long-term maintenance support.
Come meet us for a coffee and check out our clinic. Your initial assessment with a SCULPTD doctor will take 45 minutes and it will help us understand your story. Throughout the program, you will work with our team of experts to address root causes and barriers in order to develop motivation to succeed from within.
Meet our team who have come together to create a truly unique experience.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Yasmin Hallett, a family medicine practitioner with 7 years of experience. I'm thrilled to be part of the SCULPTD team and bring my personal weight loss journey to the table. I know how frustrating it could be to only be judged by the number on the scale. But here's the thing, this program is different. We care about you as a whole person, not just a number. We're here to support you and help you achieve your goals. I'm looking forward to being part of your success story.
Hi, I'm Dr. James Kim, general practitioner with special interest in diabetes, metabolic conditions, and migraine. Obesity is a chronic relapsing medical condition with over 250 potential health-related complications. Managing weight to me isn't all about looking good, although I do understand that it is very important. But really, it's about improving quality of life and staying healthy. I have unfortunately seen many healthcare providers making this assumption that weight management is purely for the aesthetic reason. My goal is to help the people with weight issues in whatever way I can, and ultimately prevent its medical complications. Through our multidisciplinary approach, I am very excited to be part of your weight management journey.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Julie Hong and I'm so excited to be joining the team at SCULPTD. I received my MD over 20 years ago at Queen's University. I know, amazing, right? And started practicing family medicine in a variety of different areas. I believe that most people in life seek very similar things: joyfulness, fulfillment, meaningful connection, and optimization. What I feel like is different about this program rather than other weight loss programs is the underlying belief that we are not here to address some deficiency people have. Most people go into weight loss programs and are taught that they are not enough the way they are and with very little self-value, and that the way that they will gain value will be to lose weight. The goal, and therefore the success of most programs, relies on a number on the scale which is so depleting and never addresses underlying cause and ultimately sets people up for frustration and disappointment. The SCULPTD program starts with the underlying belief that you are already valuable just the way you are, and this program helps you optimize your energy and uncover the joy and fulfillment and passion in your life that has always been there. Success is based on how great you feel and how many amazing habits, skills you have developed. Success is based on your courage to do things that were hard and make yourself healthy, more energetic, more connected for you and your loved ones. It's so much more than about weight loss. It's about passion, joy, love, energy, gain. All of us have this one precious life, and I'm so excited to partner with you in making this life the most amazing it could possibly be.
Hi there, I'm Selena, a registered nurse with a passion for health promotion. I understand the challenges my patients are facing with weight management and wellness. We're committed to help provide you a stigma-free zone and work with you to not only improve your physical health, but also your mental well-being. The belief held that people with obesity and overweight are lazy, overindulgent, and lack self-control is incorrect and has the potential to negatively impact many aspects of a patient's life. Therefore, our team aims to acknowledge the stigma associated with obesity and its implicit bias. Acknowledging this bias and applying methods to decrease the stigma will improve the care of our patients. I'm committed to making you feel comfortable, welcomed, and excited to be in our program. I'm eager to use my experience as a mental health nurse alongside my specialized training in the Ascend program to help you reach your goals.
Hi, I'm Kathy and I'm a registered nurse. Throughout my career and my personal life, I've always valued health and wellness. I spent many years training and coaching marathon runners and triathletes and have competed in 5 Ironman triathlons. Now, many years later, with a very busy lifestyle of working and managing a household of 4 and 2 dogs, I understand the struggles of making time for self-care, but also know how important it is. I believe our SCULPTD program will help individuals on their journey to a healthier lifestyle because of its unique approach. I was also fortunate enough to be able to attend the Ascend Academy of Science and Continuing Education in Diabetes and Obesity, which has broadened my knowledge in this area of expertise. Through my experience in the fitness industry and specialized training with Ascend, I am excited to share my knowledge and work with you on your journey to lifelong wellness.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alana Ireland. I'm a registered psychologist and university professor, and I focus my career on working with and researching weight-related issues like obesity, eating disorders, body image, and weight bias. I know weight is incredibly complex, and so is your relationship with your body. How we feel in and about our bodies is influenced by a variety of things, including popular culture, experiences from childhood, messages about our bodies, the medical system, and the things that we've done in the name of health to change our weight and shape. In our program, we take an individualized approach that takes the focus off of the scale and seeks to understand what your healthiest, happiest life looks like. We'll work together to help you figure out what's been getting in the way and help you learn to accept and feel comfortable in your body.
Hi there, my name is Andrea Hallwegner, and while I've been a registered dietitian for over 20 years, I'm most often called the chocoholic nutritionist. I'm very fortunate to work with a professional team of dietitians that share a similar, balanced, not clean philosophy that advocates for a lot of enjoyment of all different types of foods for our clients. We want you to achieve health and your personal best weight without any guilt or any complexity. As part of this collaborative team, our dietitian team is going to work with you to help you eat fully. And eating fully actually has 2 different parts. It involves eating healthfully and also eating soulfully. So we always like to think of eating healthfully as about getting enough of those nerdy, nutritious vegetables into your diet and all those healthy foods you expect dietitians are going to talk about. But we also want you to eat soulfully, and that involves sparking some joy and choosing foods exclusively for taste and enjoyment. So for some of you, that might be potato chips, or if you're like me, maybe that's a love of chocolate. Regardless, eating fully is about understanding the core principle that you can eat anything, just not everything. It's all about being intentional about your choices. So it can be confusing to figure out questions about carbs and protein, how much to eat, the very best way to achieve your personal best weight. We're going to help you overcome some of those roadblocks related to meal planning for insanely busy people, managing cravings, and strategies for emotional eating. Healthy eating can be a little bit overwhelming at times, but we're going to work with you step by step on a customized plan just for you. We look forward to assisting you alongside the rest of the team.
Hi, my name is Mark Barrett, and I'm excited to be part of the SCULPTD team. I've been an exercise physiologist for over 20 years, and I've had a lot of experience working with clients who have struggled with weight. I like the way SCULPTD has added health professionals in so many areas of wellness because they are all very important in leading a healthy lifestyle. Our clients will have all the resources they need to reach their goals. My focus will be to provide the right fitness tools so that our clients can become active safely on a regular basis. Cardiovascular exercise will be the initial preference for activity, but I will educate and integrate the importance of resistance training as well. This will not only help with weight loss and weight management, but hopefully will add some fun and positivity to the whole process. I believe it doesn't matter where you start from. What is important is that you start. And after starting the SCULPTD program, myself and the rest of the team will be here to support our clients on their journey to better health.
My name is Trish Malberg, and I am a clinical pharmacist with extra training and experience in obesity and diabetes management. I will be discussing the role of medication in weight management and how SCULPTD's pharmacotherapy program can assist clients in their journey. I am excited to be a part of an intercollaborative program that is evidence-based and focused on improving overall health versus just a number on the scale. I strive to help patients reach their goals while keeping them safe, and this unique program makes this a priority.
With psychological support, personalized nutrition, tailored physical activity, and pharmacotherapy, SCULPTD is here to help you make a permanent change for the better.
Are you ready to take control of your health and shape your future? With SCULPTD, all it takes is willingness to change and a desire to live a healthier life. Take advantage of the opportunity to transform yourself and create lasting results. Sign up now and let's start sculpting a healthier you. Let's make this a positive and successful experience together.